Welcome to the Three Body Narrative podcast. We are your hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Naeem. And it's 8:30 in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, and we are all hopped up on Tiger Blood and winning. No? Okay, it's too early.
At least one of us sounds that way.
Yeah. I wish he had started the podcast or gave the intro, but we are here to discuss everything pop culture, you name it, movies, TV shows, and games. And for today's episode, we are talking about that Netflix documentary, aka Charlie Sheen. Now, what is the documentary all about? Well, 7 years being sober, Charlie Sheen candidly discusses his rise to fame and his meteoric public downfall. He's joined by friends and family who explore the man behind the headlines with a new level of honesty. That being said, let's start with our ratings of this documentary. It's our first ever documentary that we're reviewing. I thought it would be a good idea because while normal documentaries are quite mellow and boring at times, I thought if there's gonna be a two-part episode on the craziest human being that ever lived in Hollywood, then we might as well do that. And I guess I'll start off with my ratings for the documentary series, and I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. I was bordering on 4, but I think I've reserved that for better movies, better TV shows. I think a 3.5 is a good enough rating because for me, I'm on the border or on the fence when it comes to these kind of documentaries because it's nice to learn a lot more about the person and what that person went through. But on the other hand, it feels like sometimes this is done out of to garner some sort of attention or sympathy, and I don't know whether the person's heart is in it in a way. It just feels like I'm just doing this because I'm getting paid quite a bit and I just want to be relevant. So I'm usually on the fence when it comes to documentaries like this, but but for the most part, it was quite enjoyable. It was stuff that I already knew because I'd watched the guy in his earlier movies, loved him I watched it later on because I wasn't born in the 80s, but obviously loved his earlier movies. And then, of course, the biggest TV show which he was a part of, Two and a Half Men, which I watched religiously week in, week out for a long part of my teenagehood. So a lot of things that I knew about him, a lot of things that I didn't know, which I really, really enjoyed. Whether it's his, drug dealings and drug buddies, whether it was his friendships with Sean Penn and Nicolas Cage, which was, my God, I didn't think I would see Charlie Sheen and Nicolas Cage be together, but it just made perfect sense. And so, yeah, I think overall, there were a lot of things where I was like, ooh, this is interesting. That's nice to hear him that he's doing well and this is what he's gone through and hear how his kids also feel about him right now. But on the other hand, I was left a bit like, is this genuine? Is this really what he feels like? Or is this just another phase where he's trying to rebound and it just ends up bad once again? So yeah, that's my rating for this docuseries. Let's hear from the man who not only, I don't even think he knows that much about Charlie Sheen, but for this podcast, it shows his dedication that he's come up imitating the man.
Method acting.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, cool. So before I give my rating, I think it's important to understand the reason why I rated what I'm gonna rate it. And that's purely from a perspective that I'm not someone who generally enjoys documentaries as such. I prefer biographies or like stories being told, but not from a perspective where it's like
Biopics.
uh, it's like constantly people talking about like on frame what happened and their versions of it and stuff. Instead, I like actually seeing uh, the bits and pieces being told um, through whatever happened at that period, like being shot exactly right. Like, and you see bits and pieces of that in this documentary. And for me, I think the the documentary in itself personally was a 2 out of 5 at best. Like I really struggled watching this. There were some really um, compelling parts to this, where especially the start of the documentary, where I thought, okay, probably like I was overthinking this. Maybe I'm actually gonna enjoy this, right? So it starts off on a interesting note for me, and then it just gets really, really tiring and exhausting. The pacing is terrible for me. Also, this whole thing of obviously, right? Like it's a true story. So the and he's been through a life where it's been a constant vicious circle of trying to recover and then going back into the same thing. So seeing that over and over kind of got really cumbersome, I think, to say the least. And also the fact that you don't see some of the key members um, uh, of his family who were also a part of this situation, not wanting to be a part on film. Like why that is, we don't know, like clearly. Like maybe they don't want to be on film at all because that's one incident, or I mean that's one part of their life they don't want to revisit. But also maybe perhaps like they're not okay with showing things still in, because this documentary, while it does show the dark side of um, Charlie Sheen, there's still a very positive twist to it in a way where it was always like there was hope for Charlie Sheen, and things would get better and stuff like that. And I don't know if that was like, there are bits and pieces in there who it's like one side of the story. We don't know the other side of the story, kind of a thing, and that will always be the case. But I don't know, for a documentary, it didn't sit well with me, so I didn't really enjoy it much. Yeah, I mean, I like the parts where it again. I didn't know much about Charlie Sheen for other than the parts where he was in Two and a Half Men, and I watched that series, and obviously the bit, I think 1 or 2 episodes he did on Friends long time before that. But his personal life is something that I wasn't really uh, aware of. In fact, I only much later realized he was son of Martin Sheen. So yeah, quite something. Like I mean, it's good from the perspective that I got to learn more about him. But personally, would I wanted to? I don't think so. To be honest, like I walked away with it just being really tired and being glad that I was done with it. I didn't forward through it because obviously then I wouldn't really understand what was happening as a whole, except for the part that this was a vicious circle all around kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, some important bits in there. Like it's fun to see the party lifestyle he's got and all of that stuff, and then it's like downhill from there kind of a thing. But again, it's downhill in the sense that okay, you see the fun part and the the implications perhaps of having that kind of fun, right? And but then constantly seeing it over and over again, it just got tiresome for me.
Okay. All right. Aaron.
I think it was an okay documentary to start off with. I think I would rate it a 3. Uh, I think there was some insightful stuff about the man. I guess his thought process throughout whatever the peaks and troughs that he kind of went throughout his career and his antics, I guess, over those years. I always found him like a pretty interesting person to begin with, because one was that he never graduated, but he came across as someone that was still pretty intelligent when you heard him speak and stuff like that way, especially I think the creative aspect of his, like when he was on Two and a Half Men and stuff like that way, and always when he spoke about stuff, it kind of felt like he was relatively intelligent, but obviously there were periods in his life where he had kind of his life under control, and so you didn't really see the other side of it, and so you can't really fathom how out of control or the spiral that he was behind the cameras, and so that part kind of was intriguing. I think also then listening to certain people that were close to him and kind of having to hear what they had to kind of deal with. And I think, like Naeem mentioned, couple of family members, that was Emilio and his dad. I think both didn't want to be part of it because they didn't want to relive the dark phase of this. That kind of puts things into perspective, and I think sometimes that's what kind of I think a lot of people who are not, who kind of want to know what's happening in this glitzy and glamorous life, they want to know the kind of things that don't really always make it through to public's view. I think this documentary kind of gives you some sort of insight on that, and that was kind of cool. I think Prady, you mentioned something about if there was an agenda to the documentary being put out, and I don't know about that. There was, I think there was an interview that I watched just because I think when I was looking up this documentary, I think one of the algorithms or whatever gave me an interview where Charlie Sheen was talking about his thing and like how he wanted to reach out, I think, to Matthew Perry a few months before that tragedy happened, and they wanted to kind of speak about their demons with addiction and stuff like that way. And again, I don't know if there was an agenda even with that interview and stuff like that way, but it kind of makes you wonder, like sometimes when you see something or you see someone going through stuff, like, and you have that gut thing to reach out, or if you feel like you have the experience or you've dealt with something where you can like help someone else then get through it, you never know who you can touch. And so maybe, you don't know, this documentary, though it has an agenda for Charlie Sheen, it may help someone else that goes through stuff like this way. So yeah, uh, I think the documentary wasn't the easiest of watches, but if it does good for someone, then so be it.
Fair. Okay, I the one thing I really liked also is that it broke the docu-series broke the journey into three different parts. Like he mentioned, I think the first part was the happiness part, where he talks about how he grew up as a child. Obviously, having such a famous father at that time, right? Like Martin Sheen was in very good movies, like Apocalypse Now. He was in West Wing at one point, and I'm sure a couple of other movies as well. He was in The Departed as well, right? If I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he the cop who? He's the main, the
Yeah, I
one
think he
who,
was.
yeah, the one who eventually dies by falling off that.
Wow, thanks for the spoiler. I've not watched the movie, but okay.
Oh shit! I thought you said yeah. That's why I did. That's why I went that way.
Because I
He
remember,
was
I
just
think,
Googling.
yeah, and seeing him on one of the posters or something like that.
Oh,
But
Jesus,
thanks.
you remembered him off a poster. Damn it. Okay. I wouldn't have thought that of you, but fair enough. All with like he was quite a big star back then, and of course, I loved the fact. So that was one part of it. Then comes the partying and the problems starting to emerge, and then it just became problems. Full stop. So I like the division of that, and probably we can maybe talk about this or review it in three different parts. So let's talk about maybe this the childhood phase or the starting phase, which it was pretty cool to see those Super 8 films. It's always, like Naeem mentioned, it's always nice to see actual footage rather than just see people talking. So it was nice to see how it was him, it was Emilio, it was his other brother Ramon, it was Sean Penn also who was there, who was like filming. I think there were these. No, that George Clooney came later on, I think, right? During the actual starting teenage phase. But it was nice to see those kind of Super 8 films, to see how they were already interested in the film industry, given the fact that they were traveling with Martin to different parts wherever he was, acting and doing all of that stuff. So uh, I like that bit. I also like I mean, it would have been nice to have Martin in there because they did delve into Martin's addiction during filming of Apocalypse Now, right? Where he was quite sick and ill then, and he was getting, high or addicted to booze and drugs and everything like that. And how maybe that could have played an early role into shaping Charlie's future in a way. So I kind of like that bit. What are your thoughts on that sort of the initial phase? Maybe them growing up, like because that's again things that we never knew about, right? Like, so I know Charlie Sheen right from the parts where he actually started acting in big movies, but never knew about all of this. So, what was your take on that sort of section of his life?
Uh, I think I like the Super 8 movies a lot. Just to see like how much thought they kind of put into those recordings. Like it was pretty cool. You could see how they learned off being on set with their dad. So obviously they had a lot of props. I don't think anyone else would have been able to like have all those guns and stuff like that. That was pretty cool. But like also like how they would use the blood splatter and stuff like that way. That was like so cool.
Yeah,
Uh, and I think again there it just shows like the creative side of all the siblings over there, like, and it like shows like from a very young age that all of them kind of wanted to do something related to film and stuff, and yeah, that was cool. Again, and for all three of them to be like so invested in it, because I think till quite late into or however old they were, they did it for quite a few years, and so yeah, it just showed the passion for it. And I found that quite cool.
yeah.
And then yeah, getting like even Sean Penn being in some of them and all that was pretty neat. So yeah, that was interesting aspect to it.
It was
And I
also
think
nice
George Clooney was there
yeah,
in the first movie that Charlie Sheen was. What was it? Bear something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a sequel movie or something. That was insane. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see them, and it also shows like what a small world it was, because he ran into quite a few big names. Well, they weren't big at the time, but like he was rubbing shoulders with quite a few actors that kind of made it big later on. I guess.
And also that they weren't staying in LA. I like the fact that Martin moved them to, I think Miami, was it, or Florida, where
Malibu, right?
Malibu. Oh, was it Malibu? Yeah, Malibu.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Malibu. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So then not. Why did I think it was Miami? I don't know. Both beach
I
vibes.
think that was when he kept talking about that Club Roxy or something like that. That gave like a very Miami-ish. I don't know.
Maybe. But
But my knowledge of the US geography is very skewed, so I wouldn't know.
no, I think it probably is. But that being said, it was nice to see that they weren't like, he wasn't living the usual Hollywood lifestyle, and that he preferred something a lot more. At that time, I'm guessing Malibu or whatever wasn't very hip or popular, or there weren't too many actors living around there, so
Yeah,
he kind of wanted.
he did bring that up, saying that when they moved to Malibu, it was still like a more suburbish area, and it wasn't like the whole mansion infested place that it is now. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So that was nice. Um, but yeah, I love the fact, because I think we used to do like a lot of these small short films, which
Hmm.
It reminded me of the one time we were like having a stay over
yeah,
and we did random shit where it was supposed to
shout
be
out
like
to Fahad.
some horror shit or something with the eyes popping out and stuff. That's the first thing that came to mind when I was looking at those videos. But yeah, I like I said, right? Like there were some interesting parts of this documentary, and the Super 8s were one of my favorite parts of it, right? And also the bear thing, like seeing Clooney there and like how young they all were, and like being part of such like these are like some really big names, and obviously they all had to start somewhere, but seeing where they started is also quite something. Like, okay, there is such a movie that existed that you had no idea whatsoever about, right? Like unless you take a trip down Wikipedia or someone's documentary comes out and they talk about it, kind of a thing. So
but
yeah.
Naeem, one thing talking about that, because this is one thing I'm sure you would have been like, what, really? Is that he went to that movie giving up another role?
Oh yeah, I was in fact actually
Yeah,
uh, quite surprised, but like honestly, there was a part of me that was so grateful that didn't work out because I was like, I couldn't imagine, like, especially if this person was supposed to come back for Cobra Kai at some point. I don't think Cobra Kai would have ever happened, first of all. So, like, the fact that he was considered as the primary star for, like, the main star for Karate Kid was quite surprising to me. And, like, then again, like, I mean, I think it's until you've seen someone in a role that you don't relate. But now that you've seen Ralph Macchio in it, you can't really, like, I can't imagine anyone else doing that. And yeah, I mean, so yeah, that was the fun to have a look at. For me, coming back to what you said, right, like the part where Martin Sheen was um, going through his own set of troubles and how that might have impacted him. I kind of felt sad with that bit because like there were two possibilities there, right? Having seen his father go through those things, and he also said that his father credits him for being that person that helped recover from it and stuff like that. So, having seen all of it firsthand, and then having been the ray of light to kind of help your father get away from it, to then go back down that rabbit hole was like, yes, it can happen, but I just felt sad. Like it's hard to explain why I feel that way. It's just you had two roads to walk and you chose the one you shouldn't have, kind of a thing. Yeah, and that's what I felt in the moment, kind of a thing. So uh again, like I think certain things are like he says it as well, right? Like everyone trains you for failure, like get back up and you keep going at it and stuff, but no one trains you for what happens when you succeed the first time. So yes, although that said, I think from what is told in the movies, it seems like he had a lot of support around him, and yet he just didn't want to hear any of it, kind of a thing. So,
yeah.
I mean, good and bad parts of it, where you obviously have friends who are always out partying, but somehow are more luckier than you are that they don't end up going to the extremes that you end up with, I suppose.
No, but also during that whole Super 8 scene, it's not um, hidden the fact that they were partying at that point as well, right? That's what Sean Penn, everyone was saying that, like, even at the age of 12 or 13, they were chugging beers, doing all kind of stuff. He said a lot of pot was involved during the whole filming of those Super 8, which, by the way, looking at the Super 8 films, I'm pretty sure it looked like it. I mean, some of the shit that was being pulled out there was crazy. So with all of that being said, I think the partying lifestyle was there. It just, I think it took it to a whole different level. And I think, yeah, you're right. I think he could have been like, shit, my dad went through this and he almost died. Like, I think during that set of Apocalypse Now, he was taken to hospital. They said he had a heart attack, all of that, right? And he could have gone that way as like, I don't want that to happen to me. But I guess it's also a byproduct of the friends you make and the people that you hang out with, right? I don't know. Maybe if he did get the Karate Kid role, maybe Pat Morita would have beaten the shit out of him if he tried to pull any of that stuff.
Or he would have
You
just
know, no.
made sure
Wax him.
Karate Kid had another part after that. It's just the one and done kind of a deal.
He'd have like been like, good job, Johnny Lawrence. Kick the kid some more.
Yeah, and probably the spin-offs would have been Johnny Lawrence to begin with. Like the second part would have had to focus on Johnny as opposed to uh, Ralph's character.
Yeah, that would have pleased Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
But that being said, we then move on to, I want to know, so now we're talking about like his proper film career, and how much do you guys know about, or how much have you watched Charlie Sheen's sort of filmography? Have you watched
I already
any?
mentioned this early
Yeah,
on.
you
So
know. Yeah, you know. Aaron, what movies have you kind of watched? Because he was a huge thing back in like the late 80s, 90s sort of phase.
Yeah, so Platoon was pretty good. Wall Street, obviously, we knew it, and it also got the plaudits for what it was in the end. I think probably for its comic thing, I think both the Hot Shot movies were also pretty
insane.
fun. I don't remember which was the movie that had
Hot
him
Shot
and
is the one where he gets electrocuted, right? That thing, the
yeah, it's like a spin-off on the first Top Gun movie.
That looked interesting. That's a movie that I want to watch.
Yeah, and the second Hot Shots was the one on Rambo.
Rambo and a bit of other stuff.
Others, yeah. It's very Naked Gun esque. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was the movie that you were talking about?
There was another one where he and I think Heather Locklear or something were there in one. I remember watching it. I don't remember the name, but that was one of the initial ones where I felt like, you know, this was a really good actor and stuff like that way. I'll have to look up what that movie was, but it was pretty cool too. So yeah.
Yeah, he was
so
there.
I did remember watching him quite a bit.
He was there even in which was that? I think the Ferris Bueller Day Out.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the documentary. They show like how he preps for the movie and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. And he ends up being, I think, half an hour, 45 minutes late for the shoot and stuff like that, which was, yeah.
And of course, then there's also, I like the fact that, you know, clearly this guy's name is Carlos Estevez, but I like the fact that, you know, they had to make that decision. Do we go the Sheen route or do we go the Estevez route? And yeah, I mean, it, like his brother, the only thing I kind of know about Emilio was the Mighty Ducks trilogy movie. I wasn't sure, I wasn't aware of the fact that he actually had quite a decent career path before that. I think he was also in the first Mission Impossible, right?
Was Emilio. I can't remember.
Emilio, isn't Emilio the one in the? Okay, you guys have watched. Before I give another spoiler, you guys have watched.
I have watched. I just don't recall enough of the first movie. That's the one. Wait, before you spoil it, that's the one with the helicopter towards the end or something, right? There's like a helicopter in the tunnel scene or something.
No, that's the one in the train, no, with John Voight.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's the one where the fish tank breaks in that.
The first time he.
Is it?
Yeah, it's not the helicopter scene because I feel like he's.
Maybe there is. I'll have to see what it is.
Yeah, I think the helicopter goes in behind the train and stuff, right? In the tunnel.
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. But yeah, so he's there actually for a very short role. And it's the part where John Voight betrays the team and he's sitting in an elevator shaft.
Yes.
And he goes, and then John Voight cuts it, and then he goes and gets killed on the spikes that are on top of the elevator shaft. Yeah, he's like the techie in that row. He's got like, he looks quite
He's the
different. I
guy.
think he's got a goatee and all of that.
He's the guy who gets screwed over.
Yeah, exactly. So no, but it was nice to see that. I think for me, the first episode of this docuseries was probably the best because that's the part where I didn't know anything about, right? Or I knew very little about. It was the second part where I knew most of it, so it's just kind of understanding a little more in greater detail. So, but yeah, I also watched him in Hot Shots, Wall Street. I mean, Platoon, Usual, this thing. So yeah, as it's difficult, right? Like he got fame quite quickly, or he found fame quite quickly. Like probably the fact that he was Martin Sheen's kid helped, but it didn't help Emilio as much. And I think he had that extra spark or two that helped him.
I think the 2-on-1 versus Jordan helped also.
Oh yeah, that was fun though. That was crazy to see Martin do the half court throw.
Yeah,
That was insane. And so yeah, it was nice to see that. Now I guess we talk about the second bit, which was intriguing. I mean, to see the fact that he was partying with Nicolas Cage. Like I didn't put the two and two together. I think they would have definitely been good friends given the lifestyle both of them live.
yeah.
Nicholas documentary to know what his lifestyle was like. Because again, while I've watched more of his movies, I've had no idea about what.
No, his movies are a reflection of the way he is.
That you would know if you, right? Like some people can.
No, I don't know. I didn't know much about his personal life, to be honest. I just know him as this eccentric character because of the fact, or because of the movies that he was in and the way he was portraying those roles.
Yeah. And I hadn't even seen his those late night shows. Like I only saw them in the documentary, so that's when I realized, okay, because he does talk about the whole flight sequence and stuff. Where oh my
that
god,
was insane!
it is absolutely crazy what they both do in a flight, right? Like the fact that Sheen takes control of a flight. I mean, whoever the pilot was, he's lucky that he's probably retired and like not even in the industry or like.
Yeah,
we don't know,
because it would be a little. I mean, I'm pretty sure they would have gotten all the consents and clearances before he mentioned such a thing, right? Because it is a safety hazard.
Yeah,
and
massive.
massive.
It's crazy what kind of stuff people are willing to put just to spend some time with the celebrity or get on their good books, I suppose. But insane, considering it's like a flight full of people and you're just giving controls, complete control. It's one thing. Okay, like even then it's a huge concern, but at least if the autopilot is on, maybe it's not like it is still a big thing, but not as big as it turns out to be when they gave him complete control of the whole car. That's insane. And I was like, wow, okay, crazy. Like,
imagine if you were sitting in the in the plane, right? Like you would be either you'd first be extremely scared, and then on top of that, once you're safe, you'd be so livid. You'd be like, "What the hell is this shit?"
Yeah, I don't know how they kind of they don't talk about that part where whoever like the attendants in the air hostess, whoever it is, how did they save that whole thing off? Once this guy pretended to be the captain,
Air pressure.
out him that was Nicolas Cage.
No, he's talking about the Nicolas Cage.
Oh, Nicolas Cage one. Oh, yeah.
Did they out him or did they just like not just say that?
I'm pretty sure they would have, because then the cops came in when they landed, right? Yeah. So obviously they would have had to be detained, and I think in the US you have like a marshal who sits at the back of the plane. So yeah,
yes, I know that because there are many movies on that.
Yeah,
marshals try and stop hijacks happening.
But going back to Charlie controlling the flight, yeah, I don't think a passenger sitting on that flight would have ever been aware, because they would have just been like, oh, it was turbulent air, or
Yeah.
there was a glitch and now it is sorted, yeah, whatever. And us and our technical knowledge of planes would have no idea what had happened. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that what happened was right, but I'm just saying we would have been clueless to the fact of what had happened. So,
And they don't have cameras and stuff, right? So there's no way to even say that that happened until and unless you hear the what's the thing called, the box,
black box.
and the black box is only like ever heard if there are incidents involved. So they were all good as long as he didn't crash the plane. So
Yeah, but I'm also sure, like, again, it would have been like an attendant or the first officer who had taken them into the cabin and stuff. So it's not like the crew is completely unaware. So if something actually went wrong, cabin crew and stuff like that way would have been aware, and they have the right to report it if they want to. So,
yeah. So
Okay.
Brad, you had a similar experience, right? You knew the pilot of a plane as well, and midway
Yeah.
through, and then to inform the pilot that you're on the flight or something like that.
Yeah.
So are we going to find out in a documentary that you also took control of the flight at some point?
I wish. Unfortunately, I don't have that much of power. Nor did they allow me to
he'll
walk
keep
to
us
the
in suspense
The doc-
till the documentary comes
till
on.
the document. Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, we know that he also had a couple of shots on the flight for sure.
for sure. Yeah,
There's no
absolutely.
spoilers there.
AKA
Yeah,
Pradyumna.
probably. I definitely did. Yeah.
Watch out, everyone.
Yeah.
Expected it over 20 years.
Watch
But
this space.
that was in a different period as well, where obviously he was smoking and doing all of that stuff was allowed in planes. Not now. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, they do not allow such
Okay.
a thing, right? To let people go to the cockpit and tamper around with all the instruments there. Okay, so I think we during this phase, obviously it's the start of all his problems, and we see that come to a lot of issues over a period of time where he's hospitalized once, he's gone to rehab once, and then I think even the family stages an intervention when
Yeah.
he gets home, which is hilarious because I think he thinks it's something else that's
He thought he was going for his dad's birthday at 9 a.m.
Birthday surprise or something like that.
yeah. So I think from then on it just goes downhill, right? Like you mentioned, Naeem, I think it's just a vicious cycle of him, behaving erratically, then ignoring everyone, all of his, uh, his well-wishers, heeds and
Yeah.
advices.
So I like the bit where they admit him, and the first night he has to go out with his friends. So he has a deal with the lady, and
Oh yeah,
I felt bad for the lady that she didn't win the 1 million or whatever. I mean, not win, she didn't get the million. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he did get back into what he was doing. So she might as well have walked away with that million, poor lady. But okay, oh well. I
yeah.
mean,
It's also a
What
bit
the
like
hell? It was her responsibility not to let him go. You feel bad for her. What?
no, but
Wow.
I don't
the
feel
other
bad
would have
as
found his.
no, I don't feel bad at the fact that I think he also said Nick should have said, "Oh no, you're going to rehab. Don't come." I was like, dude, how weak is your willpower that you just are like, "Oh, someone said yes, so I have to go," and that I
That's
felt,
also where it's
No,
on
I
you.
think,
People you
but
have
the
around
thing
you,
is, yeah, sometimes you just need like an
that support.
excuse to do something. Like if like we both, I mean, we all know that he wanted to get out of rehab for the event, so he just needed someone to say, "Sure, no worries, we'll wait for you," and then that's just your incentive to go ahead with it. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it was more a tongue-in-cheek thing. I don't think him saying that we are going to pull the plug on it would have actually stopped him from leaving rehab or whatever. But yeah,
I mean, if
Yeah.
not, Nick would have found someone else anyway.
yeah,
I feel that's what.
yeah. But I guess at that point, basically, when you're in that state, you're basically clutching at straws, and so any excuse, you just find a reason to validate it and do what you're doing. So
But it's I mean, it's obviously a huge burden on his family, especially like you see Martin Sheen in and out of that place to ensure anytime anything goes wrong with Charlie, he's always there right on the scene. And I
yeah,
don't
And I
know how much.
but
twofold.
one thing I did like was you can see the love and support of the families to the extent where, like, Martin Sheen, this big Hollywood character with a reputation and stuff like that, but he still like calls the cop on his son to kind of, you know, get him sorted out and stuff like that way. And so you can see that how unconditional the love was just for his son, the concern and stuff like that way. Where I think when he's hospitalized, he has like a press conference and he admits that, he overdosed and stuff like that way. Where normally you would see any other celebrity trying to kind of hush hush and say it's just a medical condition or whatever. So you can see how much they were hurting, which that I think kind of makes you feel sad because you can kind of understand what the loved ones go through. Uh, Also because like Charlie Sheen was like a destructive character for himself more than anyone else, and so you kind of understand that they also were in so much of uncertainty. Like, yeah, we'll get him back this time, but then it's there's still a long road ahead of trying to sober him out, and will that happen? You never knew. So yeah,
I also think that for Martin Sheen, perhaps there are like two folds to it in the sense that one is obviously he's his son, and there is that unconditional love by default, like as most parents do have for the child, right? But also, like he mentioned again in earlier, that he felt that Charlie was a huge part of his saving, like this
Yeah,
thing, and
that's what I wanted to ask.
perhaps he felt like he needed to be there for Charlie to kind of help him recover from a similar problem, perhaps, and maybe that really took its toll on Martin, and he does a good job of perhaps. I mean, again, this is not Martin's documentary, so we don't see how his psyche is doing on that front. But from what you see, that he doesn't tire even when Sheen is kind of. I mean, Charlie's gone against him on a whole other level, kind of it. So yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think for me it was like, I mean, obviously it's a father protecting his son and doing whatever it is best for him, but at the other end, was it like because he helped me, is this sort of a, I wouldn't say a debt to repay, but it's just that I need to be there for my son because he helped me out, and probably that is also the case.
Yeah, this just adds weight to the whole thing, I suppose.
And I think him not being a part of the docuseries is in a way showing where he is at right now. He doesn't want to relive this or want to have any part of it. He's like, just as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Okay, and now quickly we'll go on to the last stretch, which is obviously his huge success with Two and a Half Men. It was interesting to see John Cryer there because he's been quite outspoken of how tumultuous that time was with Charlie Sheen, because he's seen the good side and he's seen the extremely eccentric side, the worst part of. Yeah, possibly it's no, but I'm just saying, even not in this docu series, but in general, also in a couple of other interviews that I've seen, he's been quite outspoken. He said that how the set was at that point in time. It was also crazy from, was it CBS, I think, or whoever, who to give him that's such a high offer, after seeing all those troubles, to continue, because obviously it was such a success. It was one of the best.
$1 per episode.
Yeah, something like that. It was ridiculous, but it was such a successful TV show, and it's like hit home right from the get go. Like usually, a lot of TV shows have like maybe 3-4 episodes where they take time to build stuff and then it starts picking up. This from episode 1 hit home run after home run, right? Whether it be Charlie Sheen, whether it be John Cryer's character Alan, whether it be the kid as well, everything was perfect. And so obviously they wanted to maintain the success. We've seen what also happened when they couldn't, and when they brought Ashton Kutcher in, which totally derailed the show. So, he was quite, open about all of that. We also see obviously his 2 ex-wives, Denise Richards, Brooke Mueller. 3? Who was the third one? No, but the only 2 came onto the show. Right?
Yeah, the third one was mentioned, right?
The first one, that's when he was like
really
only
young. 2 came on.
Yeah. And then, of course, I love the whole story with his...
just couple of months or something.
Which is the story about the one with the madam who had the escort service and all that? That was pretty good. The whole trial that went through, and the fact that
Heidi, her name was?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Heidi. Yeah.
So that being said, I mean, it was. So I mean, this part was a bit like, I mean, I've seen it, and it's a struggle to watch because it's just everything is downward, right? There's no potential hope, because it was just like I made one bad decision after another bad decision after another bad decision, and so it was like, yeah, do we get it? I mean, we've seen it all, and but yeah, it was interesting to see how his ex-wives feel about it, because Denise Richards was supposedly brought out the best in him for a while. And then of course he went through that whole phase, and then they got divorced, and she still loves him and has had kids with him. And then you look at the before the divorce, right? No, before the divorce, right? Yeah, no, I'm saying they had kids together. All of the struggles that came about with it, and then of course you had the other wife, I think Brooke. Not post. That would be insane. But yeah.
Just the way you said it, like
yeah,
she loved him and stuff like that, and they were married and stuff like that, and they had
and they got divorced, and then they had kids. So it was
loved him so much that even after divorce she wanted kids. I thought I didn't skip anything. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah. And then of course the engagement, the marriage with Brooke, and the entire, I think, was it in Aspen or somewhere where they had the ski resort thing where they were doing drugs like big time, and then she made the call to the police, and then recanted that statement because she realized that even she was as bad.
That thing, wherever that hotel or whatever it is that they're showing, it reminded me of the Wolf of Wall Street. There's that last bit where he's so high that he, I think, is like trying to make a call, but he's like dragging himself on the floor and stuff like that. It just gave me those kind of vibes, and that's how I was imagining Charlie Sheen in that apartment or like whatever, the hotel or whatever it was.
It's the part where they show that he's all capable and he's good driving the Lambo and everything, but in actual, he's just crashed his entire car. And yeah. So I think definitely, that was a bit of a, that was scary, but also that was just sad to see, and not really at any point in time did I feel any pity. It's just like, you made those decisions, and I don't think he also is asking for sympathy during that point. It's just more like, hey man, this is just the life I lived.
Yeah.
And the other one person who I actually want to talk about is his close friend, the
Hmm.
one who I think we don't know much about, but obviously he's the guy who's been there throughout his entire
Yeah.
journey, and that was nice to see that
What was
he.
he? Was he a baseball player or something?
Yeah, I think so, right? Because that's
No,
where
he was playing American football.
American football, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Baseball, Charlie, I think, was playing baseball.
That's why he went and hit that home run in front of his dad and all that. Right?
Yeah.
No, and it's nice,
Mm.
like in during those periods, it's nice to see him also be a little more grounded. Like even when he was dating Denise and Brooke, it's like the way he was like they would watch games together, they'd chill, relax. It was there's nothing like party fueled and crazy. I think he still had a part of him that was grounded, that was a little more like old fashioned in a way.
I would
Mm.
suppose so.
Yeah.
It's hard to say what actually happened on a day-to-day basis because obviously they don't cover that. All you know is there is a recovery process. He's recovered to a certain extent, and that's mainly been at the time when he's been married to any of these people, and for some time that works, and then eventually something goes off, and then it's like a complete downward cycle. But we don't know during that time of the 2 years whether he's actually been completely off of it or he just dabbled every now and then a little bit or done something that
But
just
that
kept.
he kind of does mention. I think there was a part where he came out of rehab, did 2.5 Men. It was going well, but then he's like, "Let me have a drink," and then a drink became, "Let me have something else," and then it just like slowly became this massive. Yeah, it became this massive issue, and I think also it was like he he started with something as small as like a drink, and then became like then became pills, and then he became like cocaine, then it became smoking up, and I've like he just tried to graduate everything one after the other, and I think he got to a point where I think his like you're talking about immunity levels about people when they're drinking and not getting like drunk. Like this guy, I think had quite a lot, and it's also been confirmed by his drug dealer who got out of jail and started immediately dealing drugs, which is like good job, man, great job.
Shitloads
Um,
of money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're getting paid, I think he'll again. It's also the company as well as the cash, right? I think I not only did he was he getting paid quite a bit, but he also enjoyed the company that Charlie was giving him, and I think Charlie also wanted that sort of companionship more than also just the drugs in and of itself. So, so I mean, like I said, I think the second episode had. I mean, it's nice to see him kind of reliving all of this and not asking for a lot of sympathy, but just saying, hey, this is what I'd gone through, or this is what it was. Because you see a lot of people being like, oh, you should feel sorry for me because I was put into this situation, or, I didn't ask for this, I was trying my level best. But here he's like, no, this is what I did, and this is what, I was. So, and this is now who I am right now. And I've just changed. I like the fact that he started bonding a lot more with his kids. Uh, you know, whether it be his daughter, whether it be his son as well. So, and the fact that he makes it an effort to kind of visit them or visit these people regularly and keep in touch.
Which was the drug that he said this was like way too much to handle? Was that the heroin or like
He said that's 7 pound crack or something like that. I think it was something on like solid. Yeah, something like that. I think
he injected something?
Rocks.
rocks.
So he
Yeah,
snorted it. Same thing.
that was that, and I think he also tried to like smoke. Yeah, inject it because I remember him cooking it up. So
I thought that was the heroin or morphine, whatever it was that he was taking.
crack. Okay, crack cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know much about it and tried this stuff. So if anyone knows about it, please do let us know what it feels like. Uh, yeah. So I think overall it was. Yeah, I mean there were parts of it. It's nice to see that he's at least made an effort to sober up. I think he's 7 years sober now, so hopefully things stay that way. I think he's found a purpose. I think for him, what was missing was a purpose, a true purpose, and I think the fact that he's seeing his kids grow up and he doesn't want to be this sort of crackhead father. I think that's sort of keeping him in tip-top shape for now. But yeah, I mean, I think from unfortunately, like I feel like the damage is done. He's already, I think, made enough money, so I don't think he's got to a point because you see a lot of people who were successful got into this addiction and never got any job, didn't do anything, and just like blew off all their money and to the point where they were broke. Here it feels like because he had the 2.5 men job and that did pretty insanely well. He still seems to be quite
Okay.
financially independent, right? So I think that way should be okay. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
overall, what were your final thoughts on where it is right now? What do you think? If do you think we see him at any point in time venturing in back into movies, TV shows, stuff like that?
I wouldn't be surprised if Netflix has him on something, to be honest, in the next few years or so. He does look much better now.
Because you've seen those
I-
interviews. My God, during those interviews, he looks so.
Like he looks beyond, like pretty much gone.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, obviously he also had HIV in between, which was insane. Like it was, but again, like fortunately, medical science has come to a point where that is not incurable, or I mean, there's a way to kind of compress it down. So, all of that being said, I mean, there's a lot. I think there's also now. I don't know. He didn't come out exactly, but he's kind of spoken about his relationship with men also.
there was just that
Like,
one scene where he said there was absolute lies or whatever.
no, no. The end. That's what he says. Right? Like he's like, this is the part where nobody knows about, and I think that's where he says at the end that he's had relationships with men.
Oh, I think he lost me by then completely.
Yeah, that
Like
was
I
the
was
end.
like,
So yeah, you're like, oh man, this is the
I,
least of my issues right now. Yeah,
I want to be done. This
yeah.
is a part
I
of
know.
you. Perhaps you should have started like talking about much earlier. Maybe then I.
This is. I mean, this was my drug, and I want to get out of it. And I like the fact also how they managed to get him out of the drug, which was that they reduced the potency of the drug over a period of time. Because some people
Yeah.
just cold turkey it and stop it completely, whereas here they kind of weaned him off over a period of time, and he just felt like he was having highly potent drugs, and he was like, but this doesn't give me the same sort of feeling. When in actual reality, it was like a very low potency.
But thankfully, he didn't go the other way where because it was not giving him that kind
Yeah,
of feeling, he didn't keep doing more of it. Like that would have been a recipe for disaster, to be honest. But
yeah.
yeah, and
Then
whatever.
we'd be here discussing an in memoriam. What is the thing called when you when people are given awards after they pass away? What's it called?
Lifetime achievement award. I don't know.
No, that's not lifetime. Um, what's it called? It starts with P. But yeah, I think it's posthumous award. I think that's what they call it. That's what like Heath Ledger and all got, posthumous Oscar. So yeah, I mean, if that was the case that he kept like one doesn't do enough, I'm gonna like multiply it to get the same sort of high. Yeah, that would have been insane. But glad that that's not the case, and you're doing a docu series rather than a posthumous sort of biopic in a way.
Yeah.
But maybe that'll be down your lane, right? A biopic rather than a docu series. So
Yeah, perhaps I don't know. Maybe.
maybe you got a higher ranking. So all right. So
That would be.
I guess that's all the time we have though for this particular review. Do let us know your thoughts if you watched the docu series, what you thought of the guy. If you've been following his careers, and you've kind of knew about him, for people who didn't know about him, for people who kind of knew about him. Do let us know what your thoughts were, your different views on this docuseries, whether you think that there is a career further into the future for him. Maybe Netflix, like Naeem mentioned, maybe Netflix gets him on as I don't know. What are the Netflix shows that are coming out now? Maybe he comes on as a cameo there or something.
Stranger Things, the next Vecna.
I was about to say Stranger Things, but yeah, it's unfortunately ending. But yeah, do let us know. But otherwise, do hit the like button, share, subscribe with friends and family. Follow us on Instagram as well, and we'll keep you updated on what our next sort of episodes are. But until then, we are your podcast hosts, Pradyum, Aaron, and Eve, and we'll catch you all next week. See you. Oh yeah, also keep winning.